Hello everyone, today we will be learning to paint this loose style watercolor rose, and at the end of the video I will also show you how I did these loose style leaves. There are different angles of roses that you can paint, like this side facing one, but we will only be focusing on the front facing rose, which is this one. Let's use this picture as a reference. Starting with the center of the rose, if you see the center, look at the center of the rose, you will see the petals are of darker color value and they are very thin and very closely packed to each other. As we are gradually moving outwards, we are seeing the petals are getting fuller and lighter. And one thing to note is that we have to paint it in a way that all the petals should look like it is coming and joining towards the center of the rose, because that is where the stem is and that is where all the petals are actually coming and joining, right? So for the center of the rose, we'll be using a darker color and very thin strokes. As we are moving outside, we'll be using lighter color value and thicker strokes. The basic shape for painting the rose will be a circle shape. We'll be starting with how to paint the center of the rose, and we'll gradually move to the middle, and then we'll learn how to paint the entire rose. If you learn to paint that rose, you'll be able to paint different compositions as well, such as these, and you will also be able to paint wreaths as well. For the paintbrushes, I'll be using my Princeton Heritage series, and we'll only be using size 3 today. The bigger the paintbrush size that you will use, the bigger the rose size will be. And for paper, I'll be using cold press watercolor paper. It is 300 GSM. You look at this rose, you see that every single petal that is there, it is forming a C shape. It is curving to inside, which is towards the center of the rose. The center, we'll only be using a perpendicular hold, which is a 90-degree hold, and the tip of the brush to create that. And using just the tip of the brush and without any pressure. Do not apply pressure, because if you're going to apply pressure, you're going to create a thicker strokes. We don't need a thicker stroke for the center, we need a thinner stroke. So using the same thing but without any pressure, you're going to get these thin strokes. Alright, so the thin stroke, the same perpendicular hold but with a little more pressure. You see the brush is fanning out. More pressure, you're gonna get the thickest stroke. The thickness depends upon the pressure that you're applying on your brush. For the center of the rose, we'll be using a very thin strokes, and to create that thin stroke, we'll be using a perpendicular brush hold, which is 90-degree, and just using the tip of the brush, we will create tiny C's. Just the tip of the brush, try creating tiny C's. The C's will be arched towards the center of the rose. And gradually, as you are going outside, you will use the same C curves but with a little more pressure and a bit less arched than the center. Alright, and for the outermost petal, we will be using the thickest brush stroke, again with that same perpendicular stroke, and apply a little more pressure, and again forming a bit C shape. Both the ends that you see, it is thin. The strokes are thicker towards the center, and we will achieve that by using the least pressure towards the end and the most pressure when it is coming towards the center. So starting with no pressure on your brush, pull it and gradually apply pressure and slowly lift your brush off the page, and only the tip is touching towards the end. That's how we'll be creating each petal. Okay, so let's start painting the rose. For the center, we are using a 90-degree brush hold, which is perpendicular hold, and you're just using the tip of the brush. The centers will be the thinnest strokes, so we are not using any pressure in that, and just the tip of the brush, try creating small C's. Small tiny curved C's. Each petal should interlock with each other. By interlock, I mean that each petal that you're creating should look like this with each other, right? So that it unravels into a circular shape as a rose. instead of creating something like this. And remember, while you are painting the center, mix and match a bit of thicker and a thinner strokes, so it gives a dimension to the rose. And you see how I am giving a negative space, that is the white space between each petal. Both the ends will be the thinnest and the center will be a bit thicker. And adding a mix of very thin strokes and a little thicker ones. Also try to touch the ends of each petal to another petal, so you know it looks like it is not falling off from the flower. Each petal is well connected to the rose. You can either touch both the edge of the rose, or you can just touch one and leave the other one like this, or you can, for some, you can just leave the petal untouched. I like to call it the center, middle and the edge. For the center we are using a mix of thinner stroke and a little thicker ones. Highest color value will be at the center. The next petals that we'll be painting will be a bit lighter than the center, so that it gives a dimension to the rose. You can even try bending your brush to, like, say a 75-degree and see if that is comfortable for you. Using a bit lighter color value to this one. Again the same thing, we are giving a C shape and trying to connect the edges to the previous petals. C shapes all around, overlapping some, a bit thicker than the center. Try touching the ends of the petals to each other. Done with the middle ones. Now we'll go on adding the last row of petal. Just a very light tone of this red I'll be using, and this time I will apply the heaviest pressure on my brush so that I get the thickest stroke possible with this size 3 brush. Okay, you can even make it thicker by adding extra stroke to that same petal. Try to make it thicker. Now this will have more of water and least pigment to it. And with that, this is our rose. We are done painting the rose. This is how it looks. I've actually painted a bigger size rose. Now we'll see how I painted these leaves. So you can see the difference between the size of this rose, and this is quite a smaller one, and this is the smallest one. Now let's add leaves to this. Okay, so for the green, I've mixed a sap green with a bit of lemon yellow, and we are pulling a stem from this rose using the same perpendicular hold and no pressure. Just a bit of stem to this. If you're not comfortable painting this the thin stroke using a thicker brush, you can always go in with a smaller size brush, like say size 0, and just the tip of the brush, apply no pressure and gently pull the stem out of the rose like this. For the leaves, I am using just the tip of the brush, and you have to pull the leaves from this stem. Keep a bit of angle to your brush. It is not a perpendicular hold, it's slightly bent. Slowly apply pressure and then slowly lift off the pressure from the brush until only the tip is touching the paper. Again, this is one side of the leaf, you need to paint the other side as well. So again, the same thing, from the same point, just the tip of the brush and no pressure, pull it, slowly apply pressure, and then lift off the pressure until the tip is touching the paper, and you'll get a pointy edge to your leaf. Alrighty, once again, This is a tip. Pull from the center, pull from that stem. Pressure, no pressure, the one side, and the other side again the same thing. And in this I am covering the space. Pulling out the leaf, no pressure, apply pressure, and then slowly lift off the pressure. Again this side as well, pressure, slowly lift your brush, and both the sides will come and touch at the same point. We are covering this area in this leaf. You can leave a negative space between the two sides, and you can either fill in, use a mix of both. For this I have left a bit of space between both the sides of the leaf. And once again, pulling off the leaf from the stem, slowly, no pressure, pressure, lift off the pressure. Again on this side I will leave a white space for this one. It helps me give a dimension to my paintings. Pressure, no pressure. Both the sides will end up meeting with each other, and that's how you paint, and that's how you paint a leaf. So this is the rose we ended up painting. I hope I was able to teach you guys how to paint a loose style watercolor rose, and this was my first YouTube video, and I'm planning on teaching you guys everything I know about watercolor, starting from the basics of watercolor to like color theory and everything. So if you have any suggestions for me as to what I should be teaching here, kindly let me know, and if this video was helpful, kindly subscribe. Thank you so much.